abundance of water, the foolish are thirsty. Just like, let that sink in for a second.
Yeah, it really grabs you right away.
Right, because I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since we started prepping for today. In the abundance of water, the foolish are thirsty.
It's a powerful thought.
It is this paradox that feels like, well, like it was written specifically to diagnose the exact world you and I are navigating right now.
Absolutely.
Think about your own life for a moment. Have you ever felt just completely and utterly resource-starved?
Oh, definitely.
Like you are parched, just desperate for a lucky break or a specific tool or maybe, a little bit of capital to finally get your idea off the ground.
I mean, we all have. We spend an enormous amount of our mental energy constantly praying for rain.
Exactly. But what if, and this is the radical core of what we are looking at today, what if you were actually standing waist deep in a freshwater lake?
Right.
Like entirely surrounded by the exact things you are begging the universe to give you.
It is such an incredibly striking image to start with, and I think it perfectly encapsulates the mission of our deep dive today.
Yeah, we are getting into some heavy but really necessary stuff.
We are. We're exploring a fascinating dialogue from a series called The Deluge and the Desert.
Which is such a great title.
It really is. And specifically, we're breaking down the very first part of that series titled The Mirage of Scarcity.
Right.
It features the perspectives of two very distinct provocative thinkers who go by the names Helios and the Mad Philosopher.
And our goal here isn't just to give you, a basic book report on what they said.
No, definitely not.
The objective is to fundamentally disrupt how you view the barriers standing between you and your goals.
Because the premise they put forward challenges basically everything we are taught about success. They argue that you aren't lacking resources, you are simply lacking sight.
I love the bluntness of that framing. Just lacking sights.
Yeah, it doesn't pull any punches.
It doesn't. Helios comes right out of the gate in this material, addressing the people he calls the seekers, the builders, and the visionaries.
And he immediately promises to strip away the illusions they've been living under.
Right. He makes the case that it's not about the world failing to provide for you. It's about your stubborn refusal to open your eyes to what has already been provided.
And the Mad Philosopher adds a layer to that, which I think is just crucial for you, the listener, to hold on to as we pull this apart.
What does he say?
He says that the desert you think you are walking through is an absolute lie.
Wow. An absolute lie.
Yeah. In modern society, we operate under this collective assumption that progress is supposed to be this grueling cinematic trek across a barren wasteland.
Oh, like where we were just hoping to stumble upon a tiny oasis of opportunity if we, suffer long enough.
Exactly. But the Mad Philosopher argues the complete opposite. He says most people are dying not for a lack of resources, but for a lack of vision.
So they are thirsty because their eyes are tightly closed.
Right, not because the world around them is actually dry.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because it is really easy to hear a quote like that and think, well, that sounds like a great motivational poster for a corporate boardroom.
Right, but maybe not super practical.
Exactly, because I live in the actual physical world. Let's talk about the blindfold they mentioned. Let's look at the specific everyday excuses we put on to justify our lack of progress.
And Helios lists the big ones.
He does. The ones you hear in every coffee shop. And, let's be real, maybe the ones you have muttered to yourself this week.
Oh, for sure. Like, I don't have the capital.
Or I don't have the right connections.
Or the timing just isn't right.
Right. He says people are actively choosing to treat their lives like a dry season.
What's fascinating here is that to understand that, we have to look objectively at the environment we are currently operating in.
Right.
Helios points out that we live in an era where the water, and by water he means information, technology, open source tools, is falling from the sky like a monsoon.
Like direct access to global networks.
Exactly. It is an absolute, undeniable state of abundance. Yet, our vocabulary hasn't updated at all.
We still use the language of scarcity to describe a world of infinite leverage.
Precisely.
And this is where I really have to push back a little on Helios and the Mad Philosopher.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because when I hear this, an analogy immediately comes to mind. It feels like someone saying they are starving while sitting in the middle of a fully stocked grocery store.
Oh, I like that.
Like they were sitting on the floor of aisle 4, entirely surrounded by loaves of bread and jars of peanut butter, just crying out, if only someone would invent a sandwich.
That's a very vivid image.
Right. But let's be brutally honest here. If someone checks their bank account right now and sees $0, that is not a philosophical mirage.
No, it's not.
That is a mathematical reality. Rent costs money. Servers cost money. Don't people genuinely lack the capital and the network to move forward?
It's the natural pushback. And what is really interesting is how the Mad Philosopher addresses that exact skepticism.
Oh, he does.
Yeah, he doesn't deny the math. If your bank account says 0, he isn't suggesting you hallucinate extra digits.
Well, that's a relief.
Right. What he challenges is your response to that 0. He uses this brilliant, almost tragic metaphor to explain it.
Okay, what is it?
He says the fool looks out at the horizon, waiting for a ship to bring him a tiny, polished glass of water.
Okay.
And while he's staring at the horizon, he is entirely ignoring the fact that the ground beneath his feet is completely saturated.
So it's a fixation on the form the resource takes.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You are zeroing in on the ship. The ship represents the idealized traditional form of help.
Like the massive venture capital check.
Exactly. Or the perfect mentor, or the exclusive VIP introduction. And because that specific ship hasn't docked in your harbor, you declare that you are in a desert.
Wow.
But the Mad Philosopher is pointing at the saturated ground, the free coding boot camps, the democratization of AI, the ability to direct message industry leaders.
Even just the public library.
Yes. The water is there. The capacity to act is there. But because it doesn't look like a neat little glass of water delivered on a silver platter.
You claim you are totally resourceless.
Exactly.
That reframing is wild. We misdiagnose a lack of ideal resources as a total lack of all resources.
Right, the massive blind spot.
But that raises a huge psychological red flag for me. If the ground is literally saturated with alternative tools and pathways, why on earth would someone willingly choose to ignore them?
That's the million-dollar question.
Treating life like a dry season, according to these sources, isn't just an unfortunate mistake. It's a preference.
Yeah.
Why would anyone willingly put on a blindfold and pretend they are starving?
This is arguably the most uncomfortable part of their analysis, because it forces us to look at our own hidden motives.
Oh, boy.
They argue that scarcity is actually a comfort zone.
Wait, really? A comfort zone?
Yeah. It functions as a highly effective psychological defense mechanism.
Pretending you are stranded in a desert with no hope is comfortable.
Psychologically, yes. It is incredibly comfortable. The Mad Philosopher is ruthless about this.
What does he say?
He says that if you truly convince yourself there is not enough time, not enough money, not enough opportunity, then you have gifted yourself a built-in, socially acceptable excuse to do absolutely nothing.
Wow.
The text actually refers to this scarcity mindset as a shield for the lazy and a mask for the fearful.
A shield for the lazy and a mask for the fearful. Man, that stings.
It does. It's harsh.
But when you unpack the mechanics of it, it makes total terrifying sense.
How so?
Well, think about it. If I want to write a book or start a business, the prospect of actually trying and failing is deeply threatening to my ego.
Right, because it reflects on you.
Exactly. If I put everything I have into a project and it flops, I have to face the fact that I might not be as talented or as smart as I thought I was.
Which is a terrifying prospect.
But if I convince myself that the deck is stacked against me...
But you're in a desert.
Right. If I say the publishing industry is a closed loop, or that you need $1 million to start a company, then nobody can blame me for just sitting down in the sand and giving up.
You outsource your failure to the environment.
Exactly. I outsource the failure.
You've hit on the exact mechanism there. Scarcity protects your ego by lowering the stakes to absolute zero.
Because you can't be expected to thrive in a desert.
Right. If you fail to thrive in a barren desert, well, of course you failed. It's a desert. You get to play the tragic victim of circumstance.
But what if it's a lake?
Exactly. What if the monsoon is falling right now?
If the monsoon is falling, then my failure to thrive is entirely on me.
Yes.
And that right there is the massive aha moment for you listening to this. Think about that project you've been putting off for months or even years.
Or that skill you keep saying you want to learn.
Right. If you admit that the water is everywhere, that the podcasts, the digital tools, the tutorials are all right there for the taking,
Yeah.
you have to admit that your lack of progress is your own fault.
It completely removes the scapegoat. The illusion of the desert protects you from the terror of your own agency.
The terror of your own agency. That is a great way to put it.
Because if the resources are infinite, then the only variable left in the equation is your own willingness to act.
And for a lot of people, accepting that level of personal responsibility is far more terrifying than just pretending they are powerless.
Absolutely.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If this is the psychological reality playing out in our heads, how does it manifest in the physical world?
Right, moving from theory to practice.
Yeah, because Helios doesn't just leave this as high-level philosophy. He brings it right down to the dirt, to everyday work environments.
He draws on a lot of personal experience.
He does. He talks about his own experiences across multiple industries, observing things from construction sites to music production, and he sees this psychology create real-world paralysis.
Through what he calls this incredible chain of excuses.
Yes. He calls it the builder's dilemma.
It's a perfect illustration of how this scarcity mindset infects and paralyzes entire systems, not just individual minds.
Helios paints this frustratingly accurate picture. He says, the man with the hammer says he can't build anything because he doesn't have the blueprint.
Right.
So he's just standing there, tool in hand, completely paralyzed, waiting. But then you go talk to the man with the blueprint.
And he says he can't build anything because he doesn't have the wood.
Exactly. It is an endless passing of the buck.
Everyone in the chain is hyper-focused on the one specific component they don't possess.
Rather than looking at what they do possess and figuring out how to initiate some kind of momentum.
And what Helios is highlighting there is the fundamental difference between a technician and a master.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, the technician is bound by the exact rigid requirements of their specific role. If step A isn't perfectly fulfilled, they feel absolved of the responsibility to figure out step B.
They just sit down in the desert.
Right. But the master operates on a completely different paradigm. The master, according to the text, recognizes that the water is already present in the system.
It just needs to be channeled.
Exact.
Channeled. I really want to linger on that word. Not discovered, not invented, not begged for from some higher authority.
Just channeled.
You're just redirecting what is already flowing.
And to channel it, you must first acknowledge it exists. The Mad Philosopher chimes in here with a pretty profound statement.
What's that?
He says, recognition is the first act of the wise.
Recognition is the first act of the wise.
Yes. Before you can build anything, before you can channel any energy, you have to actually see what is around you.
You have to take off the blindfold of not enough.
You have to stop cataloging the empty spaces in your inventory and start looking at the overflowing abundance in your immediate environment.
And to drive this home, he uses the most relatable, undeniable example possible.
The smartphone.
Yes. He points to the device you are likely using to listen to us right now. The phone in your pocket or the laptop on your desk.
Right.
The Mad Philosopher says, look at the device you are holding. It contains more wisdom than the Library of Alexandria.
The historical context of that metaphor is just vital to understanding its weight.
Because the Library of Alexandria was the ancient world's greatest repository of human knowledge.
Exactly. Scholars would dedicate their entire lives, they would travel for months, and literally risk death across oceans and deserts.
Just for the chance to read a tiny fraction of the scrolls held there.
And yet, modern individuals walk around with 100 times that informational power in their pockets.
Instant access to the sum total of human knowledge.
Right, and they will still look you in the eye and claim they don't know how to start a business or write a book or learn a new language.
It is deeply absurd when you frame it like that. We have the collective knowledge of humanity instantly accessible, practically for free.
It really is.
But here's the paradox we have to address. Doesn't that infinite access actually create more paralysis? I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm drowning in how-to guides and 5-step tutorials, and it just makes me freeze up. I don't even know where to start.
You are hitting on a crucial symptom of the modern condition there.
Yeah.
The sheer volume of information can absolutely cause decision fatigue. But the mistake we make is misdiagnosing that fatigue as scarcity.
Oh, I see. We feel overwhelmed by the flood, so we close our eyes and tell ourselves we were in a desert.
Right, because the desert is simpler to understand.
It's empty.
Exactly. We use the overwhelming abundance as just another excuse not to start.
And it's not just digital information we are ignoring either. The Mad Philosopher also points out the human element of this abundance.
Yes, the networking aspect.
He says, look at the people around you. They are bridges you haven't crossed.
Which is such a great way to view relationships.
It is. We are living in the most hyper-connected era in human history, yet we act like we are totally isolated.
We assume the person who can help us is some billionaire on a yacht.
Right. Completely ignoring the fact that our coworker or our neighbor or someone in our local community might have the exact expertise or perspective we need.
It is the ultimate manifestation of the Mirage. We convince ourselves that abundance is always on its way.
Like it's scheduled for delivery next Tuesday.
Or next year once we get a promotion or move to a bigger city. But as the text states emphatically, the abundance is already here.
Which brings us to the synthesis of this entire concept, the metaphor of the golden cup.
This might be the most revealing part of the whole text for me.
Yeah, because it explains the ego's role in all of this perfectly.
The Mad Philosopher states that if you are thirsty, it's because you are stubbornly waiting for a golden cup, instead of simply cupping your hands and drinking from the stream.
This goes right back to the point about the ship bringing a glass of water.
Exactly. We don't just want the resource. We want the resource to arrive in a way that validates our ego.
Right. We want the investment capital to come from a prestigious name brand firm.
Or we want our mentorship to come from a famous CEO.
We want the golden cup.
Because the golden cup feels like permission.
Oh, totally. It feels like the universe officially tapping you on the shoulder and saying, you are special, you are ready, you may proceed.
Right. But cupping your hands, that's messy.
That is undignified. You have to get down on your knees in the mud, swallow your pride, and scoop the water up yourself.
It requires true humility and raw effort.
And what this text is suggesting is that people would literally rather die of thirst waiting for the fancy goblet to arrive than get their hands dirty drinking from the river that is rushing past their feet right now.
That is the core tragedy of the modern condition that Helios and the Mad Philosopher are exposing.
It's an act of refusal.
Yes, it is the act of refusal to utilize the raw, unpolished abundance that is readily available to us, simply because it doesn't match our ego's aesthetic preferences.
We prefer the noble aesthetics of starvation over the messy reality of starting with what we have.
Wonderfully put, yes.
So what does this all mean? If we take everything Helios and the Mad Philosopher are arguing and apply it to our lives right now, it demands immediate action.
It's not a passive philosophy.
No, Helios doesn't let his audience just passively consume this and nod along. As they wrap up the piece, he issues a direct, unavoidable challenge.
And we should extend that challenge to the listener.
Exactly. I want to extend that exact same challenge to you listening right now. Helios says to look around your life today, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, today.
Stop looking at what you lack.
Stop obsessing over the empty spaces in your inventory and start looking at the flood you are actively ignoring.
It is an exercise in forced perspective shifting. He is demanding that you audit your reality without the safety net of your excuses.
What is the one, well, you've been sitting on but have been too thirsty to notice? Let's make this concrete.
Good idea.
Is it a stack of unread books on your desk that hold the answers you claim to be searching for?
Or maybe it's a powerful software subscription you pay for every month but never bother to actually learn how to use.
Right. Is it a colleague who has the exact industry experience you need, but you've never humbled yourself enough to ask them for a 15-minute coffee chat?
What is your hidden well?
The Mad Philosopher reinforces this challenge with a piece of imagery that I think is just impossible to forget once you hear it.
Oh, the umbrella line.
Yes. He says, stop asking the universe for a drink when you are already drowning in opportunity. Open your mouth. Open your eyes.
And then he delivers that final striking line to his co-host.
He says, the rain is falling, Helios. The fools will stay dry because they brought an umbrella to a flood. Don't be the fool.
An umbrella to a flood. I mean, that just perfectly captures the insanity of how we operate.
Picture it. You are standing in waist-deep rushing water. The sky is absolutely pouring down on you, and you are holding up this tiny, flimsy umbrella of excuses.
Like, I don't have enough time this week.
Or, I don't have the seed money yet.
Or the market is too saturated.
Right. Just trying desperately to keep yourself dry. Trying to keep yourself in that comfortable, safe little desert of your own making, while an ocean of opportunity washes past you.
It is the picture of profound self-sabotage.
It really is.
But hidden within that harsh image is an incredibly empowering realization.
What's that?
Because if you are the one holding the umbrella, you are also the only one who has the power to drop it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The moment you choose to let go of the handle, the abundance washes over you. The power has always been in your hands.
That is exactly where Helios leaves us. But he also gives us a glimpse into where this conversation is heading next.
Right. The next piece of the puzzle.
He mentions that in part 2 of their series, which is titled The Salt in the Filter, they're going to tackle the next logical problem that arises.
Because it's not all easy once you drop the umbrella.
No, Because once you finally drop it and you admit that the water is everywhere, you realize that sometimes the abundance is so great and the information is so overwhelming that you have to learn how to process it just to survive it.
You have to learn how to filter the flood,
Exactly.
which requires an entirely different psychological framework. Moving from the paralyzing mindset of scarcity to the demanding mindset of managing overwhelming abundance.
But before we can even begin to worry about the salt in the filter, we have to deal with the reality of today.
We have to reckon with the mirage we've built.
And the Mad Philosopher's final thought in the source material is a truth that I think is going to echo in my head all week.
It's a good one.
He says, the sun doesn't stop shining because you chose to stay in the dark. The water doesn't stop flowing because you forgot how to swallow.
It is a reminder that the universe's abundance is entirely indifferent to your participation in it.
It doesn't care if you're ready or not.
Right. The resources, the knowledge, the access, they are there, whether you choose to utilize them or not. Your refusal to recognize them does not diminish their existence. It only diminishes your potential.
Which leaves us with a critical final implication to consider. If the sun is always shining and the water is always flowing, then the barrier isn't environmental.
It never was.
It is entirely internal. It means the real work isn't out there trying to scavenge for water in a hostile world.
The real work is in here.
Inside your own head. Learning how to put down the umbrella, open your mouth, and trust yourself enough to take a drink.
And so I leave you with this final thought to mull over, building directly on what the Mad Philosopher revealed today.
Let's hear it.
Let's say you do it. Let's say you finally choose to drop your umbrella of excuses and step fully into this endless, rushing flood of modern abundance. Will you actually know how to swim? Or will the sheer crushing volume of all that opportunity become its own kind of danger, a deluge that you have to figure out how to conquer next?